And we are live. What's going on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn Live? It is your boy Billy Rowe. I'd like to welcome you to the first row. And if it is Wednesday, which it is, it's Wednesday, I'd like to welcome you to the first row. And if it's Wednesday, I'd like to let you know that today you should already know what that means. It's time for the Wednesday word. That's Wednesday word. I don't know. My brain is still a little wonky, guys. I apologize in advance. Anyway, jumping straight into it, I would like to bring up tonight's topic. Tonight's topic is the harvest. As always, I like to share what I mean by my topic. So with the topic, the harvest, what do I mean? What do I mean when I say the topic, the harvest, is how there's these moments in our lives where we are required, not even forced to, we're required to, we don't really have a choice, to wait for what is next to come. And how we, in these moments, we're heavily reliant upon patience. And so when I'm talking about the harvest, what I'm talking about are these moments that we've already done everything that we need to do to affect an outcome in our lives. And the only thing that we have left to do is to be patient and wait for those outcomes to mature so that they can manifest in our lives. So tonight I have 3 tools for the first row that I want to share with you when it comes to this concept of the harvest. Let's jump straight into it. Tool number 1 when it comes to the harvest is seeds come first. You guys know I always struggle with which tool I want to provide first. This one was a little bit easy. The reason the seeds comes first as the first tool is because before we can even get to these points in our lives where we need to be patient or are waiting to be patient for a harvest to manifest or to mature in our lives, we got to have some seeds. My brother Damien and I, we have conversations all the time. And often in these conversations, I talk about how, people are waiting for a harvest, but they didn't plant any seeds. People are waiting for apples, but they planted corn. People are waiting for whatever the produce may be, tomatoes, but they planted strawberries. Though some of these plants may look similar as they are growing up and sprouting out of the ground, the reality is whatever seeds we plant, that is what we are going to have a reasonable expectation of what our harvest is going to be. So seeds come first is a very important tool. I'll give you a couple examples of why it's such an important tool. The reason why seeds comes first is an important tool, and from the first perspective is the types of seeds that we are going to plant are going to, again, lead to the outcomes that we receive or lead to the harvest that we're going to reap. If we are planting the wrong seeds, it's important to kind of get ahead of that earlier in the process so that you can uproot those seeds and put the right seeds in. Let's take this from a perspective of relationships. If we're planting seeds where we're inconsistent or we are flaky or flighty or unreliable, unloyal, or untrustworthy, it's going to be really hard to foster healthy relationships. Good evening, Bruni. I don't know why I said Brini. Maybe because you called me Batman last night. But it's going to be really hard to foster a healthy, strong relationship because we've planted the wrong seeds. We're planting distrust. We're planting disloyalty. We're planting gossiping. I'm always a big fan. If you have a friend in your immediate circle who's always gossiping to you about everybody else's business, they're probably gossiping about you and your business to everybody else when you're not involved in the circle. However, that's one aspect of why seeds are important. Number 1 is to make sure that you're planting the right seeds. But number 2 is to make sure that you don't expend your seeds in consumption, or don't consume your seeds, I should say. I think about the story of Jack and the Beanstalk, and most of us are familiar with that story. Jack sells the ox or something like that in the wagon, gets some magical beans, and his parents throw them out, and they become a beanstalk that leads up to a golden goose and all that stuff. But I think about what that story would mean, or what that story would be, if instead of throwing the beans out the window and they had an opportunity to create and grow a beanstalk, what if they just said, well, you sold our ox, our last source of income and food, and you gave up the wagon, and so we're just going to eat these 3 beans and we're going to die. We're going to eat these beans and die. And this is why that concept of seeds comes first, because depending on what we do with our seeds will determine whether or not we actually have a harvest. if we consume our seeds and don't plant them and don't allow them to grow and mature, those seeds that we consume could be only the only seeds that we get. Think about this from the financial aspect when we're thinking about finances. We all typically have some source of income, some way, somehow money comes in. When that money comes in, if we just, oh, you know what, I just got my check, just got paid, it's Friday night, I'm about to go out and get some new clothes and I'm gonna eat the finest meals, and we consume all of this seed without planting any, during the rainy day season, when the rainy day comes, we don't have any funds to take care of things. This is how we end up in situations where we don't have the funds to repair our cars. I remember when I was younger, on my first couple of cars they were like not the best cars. But things would happen, simple things that would happen to break down. It'd be like a $300 repair, something that I've had ample amount of seeds to save or to plant that I didn't plant. And so there would be times where I would walk away from a car and allow it to be taken to the junkyard or picked up and donated or whatever it may be. I would allow this to happen because I had consumed so many of my seeds that I didn't have enough harvest or enough income, finances, to pay for that car to be repaired. Crazy. I had the income to pay for all the gas that I was spending in it. I paid for my insurance. I got my tires and everything else that I needed. But the moment that the car broke down, because I had spent so much time consuming what were seeds, because I didn't realize they were seeds, I thought they were harvest. Hey, I went to work, they paid me my check. This is the harvest. No, some of this is the seed, and you need to plant more seeds. Other than that, all you are on is a treadmill, running in place, trying to keep your feet up so that you don't fall down. But the problem is when you get tired and the treadmill's still going and you don't have the energy to continue to go, you fall. And not only do you fall, you get injured. And so when I say seeds come first, it's really about identifying that before we ever are patient or waiting for a harvest, or even if we are waiting for a harvest, we have to realize the seeds that we have that have been given to us, or whether we've worked for them or they have been given to us. We have to realize the importance of those seeds and make sure that we're planting them in good ground, and that we are taking care of them properly. So that's, in a nutshell, the very first tool. Again, seeds come first. Don't eat your seeds. One more thing. When I was a kid, there was this cartoon, and I believe it was a Looney Tunes cartoon. And they would always talk about, one of the characters would be like planting seeds and getting ready for the winter. And then they get their crops and then they'd store all their stuff. And the other person would be sitting on the porch, just kicking it, lounging, and just, I'm not going to work today. I'll work tomorrow. And then eventually what happens is the winter shows up. And in the winter, it's too late to plant seeds. I mean, it's not too late. You can plant them, but you're going to be waiting until the spring to harvest those seeds. And that's if those seeds make it through the winter. So just keep this concept in mind as you're experiencing life, whether it's on a relationship standpoint, whether it's at your job, whether it's financially. Realize that the things that are coming to you today, not all those things are meant for consumption. Some of those things are meant for planting so that you'll be ready for the next time it's time to gather a harvest. So that's tool number one. Let's jump into tool number two. Tool number two when it comes to the harvest is nurture while you wait. It makes no sense to take some of the seeds that you get from tool number one, plant those seeds, and drop them into a space where they are going to be neglected. Because when seeds are neglected, when there's not adequate nutrients in the soil, when there's not adequate water for the plants to consume, not adequate sunlight for certain plants, when there is a level of neglect, those seeds, their viability, their ability to thrive and produce an outcome, those seeds unfortunately die. They don't reach maturity. Also, nurture while you wait is also about guarding your seeds. I always say I have no problem with people knowing what I'm doing. However, people don't, not everybody knows everything that I do. And so when I say nurture, it's not just from the nutrient standpoint, it's also from the protective standpoint. Not everybody is meant to know that you have seeds in the ground. You can put your fence up to keep varmint out, to keep people off the ground from stepping on seedlings and things like that. But nurture while you wait also includes making sure that you're telling the right people about your seeds that you're planting, but also not disclosing necessarily the fact that you've planted certain seeds with other people. And so, like, I'll use a really good example. My children, or my wife and I, we're building a living trust. And in building this living trust, there are some things that we plan on leaving behind for our children. And in the desire to want to leave as much as we possibly can behind, we still want to live a life, obviously, but to leave behind as much as we can leave behind, there's some criterias within our trust that we don't just want to leave behind things to people who are not going to take care of them. So there's like certain graduation requirements that are in our trust. Like, hey, I'm here to build an empire. Don't get me wrong. Here to build and generate wealth for the family. Absolutely down for that. But what I'm not here to do is to do it all for any of my children, especially if they are not willing to do it for themselves. And so when it comes to nurturing while I wait, what's going on, Brother B? When it comes to nurturing while I wait, I am looking at the aspect of what are the things that I want my children to be aware of, and from the sense of, hey, these are the opportunities that we're looking at leaving behind, but not just what are the opportunities and the things that we are possibly leaving behind. What are some of the requirements we're going to require of you? People, you'll hear me say this probably for the rest of my life. My love for you is unconditional. My support of you comes with conditions. This is nurturing while I wait. Teaching my children how to be financially astute, financially responsible, so that they're not on this lottery type mentality where they're just waiting for their handout. I don't want to raise handout minded individuals. I want to raise individuals who are those types of people who go after it, go and get it every day for themselves. And anything that's added to that is a bonus, is extra, is not necessary because they're striving to get it on their own. That's what I'm looking to build. That's what I'm looking to grow with our children. And so when I say nurture while you wait, think about how there's the soil, there's the seed, the foundation for which that harvest is going to need to sit on. It's not just about the seed being in the ground and then eventually there's going to be apples. No, it's eventually there's going to be apples, but what are you going to do with those apples? You are nurturing the environment that is to come later for those apples. The other thing about nurturing while you wait is waiting for time to pass while being idle. It makes the waiting process feel that much longer. I know many of us have heard that phrase, time flies while you're having fun. I was just watching a documentary today and they were talking about how the psychology behind video games. And there's a balance between the video game being difficult, the video game being obtainable or achievable, and the video game being engaging. And when you find that right balance, what you do is you create this concept called flow. And flow, we have all experienced it. It is when time does not seem to have the same pace in which it has, because time is very constant. It's that time where you're playing outside and all of a sudden you look up and the sun is down. It's that flow. And so while we're waiting idly, doing nothing to nurture our seeds, we don't get into this space of flow where the waiting period doesn't feel like it takes a bunch of effort. It feels like it takes forever. If you put what were they called when I was a kid? Savings bonds. If you had a savings bond when you were a kid, I had a $50 savings bond. That's the only one I remember. There were quite a few years before that $50 savings bond matured to $50. If you just sat and waited for the $50 savings bond to become $50, there's so much you're going to miss in things that you could be doing to prepare, not just for that $50, but what you can do with that $50 when it actually matures. The last thing you want to do is to wait. I think I want to say a 10-year bond is what it was. The last thing you want to do is wait 10 years and then at the end of 10 years be like, whoo, now I can spend that $50. What? No. Nurture while you wait. What can you be doing to better yourself, to better your position, to prepare for the opportunity when that harvest is going to come? This is a big part of patience, because when we have the ability to preoccupy our minds, or get into this flow mentality where everything just seems to be moving and things are lining up and falling into place properly. When we do this, it gives us this ability to not be so focused on the time and to really be focused on what the future outcome will be. Think about my father. He does really good gardens. He's good at creating gardens. And I think about sometimes the level or the caliber or quality of the produce that he grows in his backyard. And I'm like, man, it's there's so much that he does, whether it's pruning certain things or tilling the ground or watering the ground, making sure there's not too much water, providing miracle grow, whatever it may be. All the things that he does produces this quality product when it comes to whatever he wants to grow. And I mean, he has an amazing green thumb. The problem it comes for a lot of us is a lot of us, honestly, if we just want to be honest with ourselves, don't want to do the work. A lot of us want the handout. A lot of us enjoy the convenience of going to the grocery store and getting strawberries from there. And sometimes they're good and sometimes they're bad, but hey, at least I didn't have to grow them. When it comes to these areas in our life, when I talk about the harvest for the areas in our life, it is critical that we are involved and engaged in the work of the outcome. So this tool, again, Nurture While You Wait, is really about not just nurturing that seed so that it has the best chance possible to grow, but also being cognizant that sometimes you have to protect your seed so that it won't be taken up out of the ground prematurely and consumed by somebody else as their harvest. So that's tool number three. I'm sorry, tool number two. And then tool number three, when it comes to the harvest, is be ready to harvest. I grew up in Sacramento, California, in the Central Valley. And as a result, I got to see tons of orchards, whether it was apple orchards, pecan, walnut orchards, just tons of orchards. But apple orchards, they always remind me of a certain aspect when it comes to our life harvests. We can get a seed, we can plant the seed, we can nurture the seed, we can protect the seed, but at some point, we have to prepare for the harvest. There is nothing worse than being ill prepared for an apple orchard harvest, because the apples, they have this cycle that they go through where they're not ripe, they grow, and then they become ripe, and that's the window in which they need to be picked. If you do not pick the apple in the period of time where it's ripe, there's a couple things that happen. Some of them naturally just fall off the tree. When an apple falls from the tree, from the highest branch, hits 3 branches on the way down and then hits the ground, it's probably beat up pretty bad, and it's not an apple that you want to consume. But even if it doesn't fall off the tree, at some point the apple will begin to rot and spoil on the tree. And so this is why being ready for your harvest is super important, because when I think about some of the investments that I have made, I think about actually some of the investments that I made last year and that I closed out this year. One of those investments was an investment in Apple. And I remember making this investment saying, at some point I'm going to need this money, but while I don't need it, I want to invest in Apple and have a couple shares. And it got to the point where things were coming to an end on the book. Certain things needed to be done. Certain things needed to be funded. And I was like, okay, well, I have this Apple stock. It's at $160 a share, $169 a share. I'm going to go ahead and close my position out in Apple. And I closed out a position in Apple that was just a little under $10,000. And in closing out that position in Apple, it would have been easy to say, but it's Apple. Oh, this is interesting that it's Apple company and Apple orchards that I'm referring to. But anyway, it would have been easy to say that this is Apple. This is, the company that you want to hold your stock on, and you want to make sure that your money is there and that you don't miss out on the opportunity. It would have been easy to say that. But because I was ready for my harvest, when I planted the seed, I knew why I was planting it. As I was nurturing the seed, I knew why I was nurturing it. And when the opportunity came for me to collect my harvest, I knew why I was collecting my harvest. I knew the timing in which I was collecting my harvest, not the timing of the market. That I don't think anybody knows that. But I knew the timing and the aspect of I was getting ready to move into another area of finance that I needed finances for my book. And so being ready for that harvest allowed me to make the decision that, hey, I'm pulling this out. I'm putting this towards the book. This is what I'm doing. The outcome of that today, we're now in what, almost the end of May. So we're going to say roughly 4 months later. I look at, I could have left my money with Apple and maybe found other ways to fund my book. But in doing so, I look at the value of Apple stock today. The market is up. It's always going to be up and down every which way. Just this is what the market does. But the stock that I sold for about $169, that stock would be valued at about $40. I want to say about $40 less, or at least $30 less. And so I'm looking at the number of shares that I sold, and I'm like, I could have just said, "Oh no, I'm not ready to harvest this harvest yet," and it would have cost me $1,600 to still have Apple stock today. Not saying that I knew the market. I don't profess to be a market guru like that, but being able to understand that there was a harvest to take allowed me to take that harvest in the time in which I was to take it, that I had designed to take it, and really maximize the use of that harvest versus holding on and waiting and saying, well, maybe I'll release my book in the end of the year because I want to hold on to Apple stock a little bit longer. Why? Because what really is taking place is not only am I reaping my harvest, just like I said in tool number one, not everything that we harvest is meant to be consumed. And this is the bonus part of this particular tool is be ready to harvest, but also be ready to plant again. And that is exactly what I did is I was ready to harvest my money out of the stock market, but I was also ready to plant that harvest into my book. And that is really what I look at when people are like, how is the book doing? How is the revenue coming from the book? I'm like, the book's doing well. The revenue is well. But at the end of the day, the book is the seed. The book is not the harvest. And that is what this whole Wednesday word is about, is understanding that as we have our seeds and as we plant our seeds and as we nurture and protect them and as we harvest our harvest from those outcomes as our harvest, we got to be ready to plant again, because a lot of us try to have a lottery mentality when it comes to our harvest. We try to reap one big major harvest and allow that harvest to carry us through the duration of our lives. How easy it could be to say, oh, if I just write one book, I just got to write one book and let that book carry me through the rest of my life. How easy that would be, but it's not very realistic. We have to be ready to plant again. And that is what the harvest is about. It is about a cycle of seed, time, and harvest. And every time you have a harvest, you should be looking at what seed you can pull back from that to plant again and to improve on the next harvest or to add to other harvests that you might be waiting on. So that's what I got for you guys today. Really quick, let's go over the 3 tools when it comes to the harvest. The very first tool, again, is seeds come first. If you eat them, then you won't have a harvest to worry about. So you won't have to worry about tools 2 and 3. Tool number 2 is nurture while you wait. Time spent idly can impact our ability to harvest. And even from the standpoint of we may not even have the right supplies. We may not have the bags. We may not have the whatever we may need for that harvest. So make sure that you nurture while you wait. And then lastly, be ready to harvest. Don't let someone else gather your harvest up for you, and don't let your harvest sit on the vine or on the branch or on the ground spoiling because you are hesitant to harvest it. And lastly to this tool is be ready to harvest and also be ready to sow again. As always with the Wednesday word, I like to share a personal story, something that kind of got me thinking about this. And this particular topic came at a very, I guess it was a year and a half in the making. But this particular topic came because I was calling a friend. I call her my little sister. I was calling her to tell her happy birthday. And when I went to call her to tell her happy birthday, I realized I didn't have her cell phone number. And I was like, I don't have her number. What? And so I go into Facebook and I go into Messenger and I find her contact information in Messenger. And excuse me, one second. There we go. And in looking in Messenger, the first message that I came to was like almost 2 years or a year and a half old. And the message was a time in my life that I was sending messages to just random people that I love and care about. And it was a moment where I was using this concept called flowers now. And the concept of flowers now is very simple. It's just, you're here today. I don't want to say kind words and loving words about you at your funeral. I want to say them about you to you right now while we have this moment of existence. And so the last message I had sent her was a flowers now message. And I was thinking about the last time that I had seen her since that message. And it had been like, I don't know, it had been maybe 8 months since I had last seen her. But when we seen each other, she was married and I hadn't had an opportunity to meet her husband yet. But when we seen each other in this environment where she's with her husband, she runs up to me and she gives me one of the biggest hugs, just one of the biggest hugs. And I'm like, oh, it's so good to see you. Give her a hug, talking to her. Then I'm like, oh, let me introduce myself to your husband. My bad. And I was thinking about the depth of this relationship because I've known this person since they were a baby. I've met her sister when I was in the 3rd grade. And so I've known them for quite some time. But it got me thinking about this harvest, like the harvest of the relationship that I have, not only with her, but with her family and then with people in general. I have very deep relationships with people. And I believe it is from this concept of understanding the seeds that these relationships are. Understanding what it is to me when someone is considered my little sister, what that means for our relationship, understanding how to nurture that part of the relationship, understanding how to protect that part of the relationship, understanding how to value that part of the relationship, and then understanding how to harvest that relationship in simple things as far as calling and saying happy birthday, in simple things as sending flowers now type messages. All those things, they lead to an outcome. And so I go all the way with this thought to the book, Fire Your Job, Hire Your Passion, and how much support was given to me because of the work that I did to nurture those seeds in relationships. And that's really what the harvest is about. It's about understanding not just that you want to do certain things in life, but why you want to do them. I trust me, I did not develop deep relationships with people so that I could sell a book. That wouldn't have been worth the work, honestly. That wouldn't have been worth the work. I developed deep relationships with people because I am compassionate and care about people deeply. And I want them to know that even in their dark moments, when things are difficult, when they want to give up, that there is somebody out there that has this love and compassion for them, that is happy to step in and help in any way that he can. And so that's what this harvest is about. It's a cycle. You could do it in relationships, you could do it in jobs, you can do it in your finances, you can do it with your bills, you can do whatever you want to do it with. But realizing that the seeds that you have today are your opportunities to plant, to harvest in the future. So when you're looking at your outcomes, be ready to harvest those outcomes. And if you find that there's a seed that you've planted that doesn't serve what you want out of your life, or what you want out of maybe a relationship, or maybe what you want out of your finances, be willing to uproot that seed and get the proper seeds so that when the harvest does come, you're getting what it is that you've been waiting on, not what it is that you just happen to put in the ground. That's all I got for you guys today. I really, really enjoy you guys being with me live on this Wednesday Word. I'm struggling to still get my voice back. Sometimes it's here, sometimes it's not. But at least today I don't fully sound like Batman. So I will take that. Really quick, just a reminder of what is to come and what we have for the first row. If you have not already gotten your copy of Fire Your Job, Hire Your Passion, it is available. You can get it on Amazon, on Barnes and Nobles. You can get it at firstrow.com. I don't care where you get it. just get it, because I can tell you that the content within that book is life changing. Even as I continue to go through and go back and visit the book, there's just so much information in there that I'm just grateful that it has been documented. Um, the next time that you will actually see, well, you won't see me live, but you'll see Carolyn Michelle, and she's a first row faithful, Carolyn Michelle of thegrinddefined.com. The next time that you'll have the opportunity to see her or hear from her will be on her podcast, The Grind Defined. That is this Friday, the 27th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which would be 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So go to grinddefined.com. And you'll be able to catch her podcast, The Grind Defined. She has some amazing shows. You should definitely check her content out. And then the next time you'll see myself and Terrell and Michelle live will be Tuesday, the last day of the month, May 31st at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that is Terrell and Michelle and Billy Rowe live. And then, as always, you'll catch me here on Wednesday, June 1st, first day of the month. You'll catch me for the Wednesday Word, and that will be at 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time and 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Other than that, if you have topic ideas, I cannot stress this to you enough, especially for the Terrell and Michelle and Billy Rowe show. I think that we have had some amazing topics, and we still have more amazing topics to come, but I would love to hear from the viewers some of the topics that you would like us to unpack and really coach on. For really, it's an hour of live coaching. That's pretty cool. So if you have a topic idea, please send that to topics@firstrow.com, and we'll be happy to look at getting that topic into our schedule. But other than that, that's all I got for you guys today. I appreciate you guys tuning in and watching live. As always, if you like this video, share it. If you share it, like it. I love engaging with you guys in the live chat, and I love engaging with you guys in the replay up to the first 7 days that the content is out. After that, we move on. But until the next time, one love, peace, and God bless. Thanks for sitting on the first row.